Hello students. The topic that we are going to discuss in today's video is safety provisions, which is covered under the Factories Act 1948. This is a part of your subject Industrial Law with subject code BBAN 205. Now, as per the Factories Act 1948, it is mandatory for the occupiers or the factory owners to ensure the health, safety and welfare of their employees. So for this purpose, the safety of the workers is of utmost importance. The reason being, if the workers suffer with any kind of accident or they suffer any kind of injury during the course of employment, then it is liable on the employer to pay the compensation amount to these workers. So in order to ensure that the owners do not have to pay any kind of compensation, the workers work in a safe and secure environment. So that is why these safety provisions have been given under the Factories Act. These provisions are covered under the Chapter 4 of the Act, and the Section 21 to 41 talks about these safety provisions. So in total there are 21 provisions which we would be discussing one by one. So the first section, that is the Section 21, talks about the fencing of machinery. So we all know wherever there are factories, then at the shop floor level there are too many machines wherein the workers or the machines which the workers are operating and they are working upon. So it is very necessary that whichever the dangerous machines are there, they should be properly fenced. That means a boundary or a kind of enclosure should be created for these machinery so that people do not come in direct contact with these machines and injure themselves in any other manner. So the state government has the right to frame rules and prescribe any other precautions which are necessary for safe working in the factory premises. The second section, that is the Section 22, talks about the machines in motion. So again, in the factory premises, there are many machines which are under motion. So that is why it is required as per the law that these machines should be operated by trained adult male workers only. Women and children should not be allowed to work on these machines. And at the same time, it should be ensured that the workers should be wearing tight-fitting clothes. They should not be wearing any kind of flowing garment which can get caught in the machinery which is moving. The third section, that is the Section 23, talks about the employment of young persons on dangerous machines. So as per the Act, no young person should be allowed to work on any kind of dangerous machine unless they have been trained. Similarly, only the adult male workers are allowed to operate these dangerous machines. So as per the definition of the factories, a young person is any person who has attained the age of 14 years but is below 18 years of age. So that means he is neither a child nor an adult. So these young persons should not be allowed to operate the dangerous machines. Section 24 talks about striking gears. So striking gears is again one important thing which should be installed in every factory premises to prevent any kind of accident from taking place, or for switching off the entire machinery in with a single switch so that the emergency situations can be prevented. So we have often seen that it is a kind of a big MCB board which has a lever or a pulley attached to it. So whenever a person or the factory has to be operated upon, the switch is pulled down so that all the machines start moving with a single switch. And similarly, while leaving the factory premises with a single switch, you can put off all the machines in a single go. So these kind of striking gears should be installed in each and every factory premises, in each and every unit of the factory. Section 25 talks about self-acting machines. So there are various parts of the machines which are not necessarily a part of the machine, but they in itself is a separate unit. So the person should be around 45 centimeters away from any such kind of fixed structures. Section 26 talks about the casing of new machinery. So whichever new machines is bought by the factory owner, and while installing those machines in the factory premises, it is necessary that those machines should be properly encased onto the platform. So normally I can give you a small example. Whenever in your societies we install big gensets, diesel gensets. So while installing, a platform is created first on which that generator set is placed, and apart from that a lot of grouting is done into the surface or in the ground, and these generators are fixed with proper screws and all. So similarly, any such other kind of machinery, it may be a motor or any other kind of small machines. So everything should be properly rooted or grouted into the ground, because when the machinery is going to move, there would be a vibration, and as a result of the vibration, the machine can move from its place, thereby causing injury to workers or thereby leading to further accidents. So that is why casing is really important. Cotton openers, this has been given in section 27. So women and children are not allowed to work on cotton openers. So cotton openers are basically machines in which the cotton is pushed into by the usage of hands, and as a result what can happen is the finger can go into the cotton opener, and thereby the fingers of any person can be chopped off. There may be injury to the hands. So that is why the adult male workers are allowed to work on cotton openers, and women and children or the young persons, they are not allowed. Section 28 talks about hoist and lift. So whatever lifts are being there, which are used in the factory premises, they should be in good conditions, they should be properly checked, proper servicing and overhauling should be done periodically from time to time, so that the lift are in good working condition, thereby reducing the chances of injury. The maximum load carrying capacity, that should be clearly mentioned, and none of the lifts or the hoist should be allowed to carry load other than the specified capacity. There should be a provision of interlocking the doors, and the door should not open in between. And all these machines should be examined every 6 months. Same is the case for hoist also, which carries a lot of load wherever there are construction sites or factory sites. So these should be in good working condition. Section 29 talks about lifting machines, chains, ropes and lifting tackles. So the lifting machines like cranes, so all the factory premises you will find a lot of cranes or any other kind of machinery which is carrying heavy load. So these machines should be of good construction quality. They should be examined once in every 12 months. The machine should not be allowed to carry load beyond their lifting capacity or beyond the safe working load that the machine can carry. Also, as per the Act, the crane should not approach within the 6 meters of the place where other people are working. So they should be 6 meters away, thereby reducing the chances of injury. Section 30 talks about revolving machines. So they are machines which are in motion. So safe speed limit should be indicated for these kind of machines, and the speed which has been indicated in the notice, that should not be exceeded by any means. Pressure plants. So there are a lot of pressure plants in the factory premises, or also wherever there are boilers. So there also the pressure needs to be maintained inside the boiler so that it doesn't burst or it doesn't explode. So there should be safe working pressure on the pressure plants, and effective measures should be taken to control these pressure, and it should not exceed the safe working limit. Section 32 talks about the floors and stairs. So all the floor and stair in the factory premises, they should be cleaned regularly with suitable material, so that all the grease or whatever, चिकनाई जो surface पे होती है because of spillage of oil or anything, that can be easily removed. These should be properly maintained. All these stairs, passages or gangways which are there in the factory premises, they should be of sound quality. Sound construction should be there and properly maintained. Section 33 of the Act talks about pits, sumps and openings in the floor. So many a time a lot of pits and sumps, sumps are basically kind of storage space which is dug into the ground for collecting waste material or maybe drainage water or maybe any kind of oil. A common example is when you'll go to any mechanic shop, a mechanic who opens your machines or the car or maybe bike's engine. So they collect that oil into a pan. So that is what is a sump. So if you go to bigger organizations where there are huge workshops, so they have these underground storage tanks or sumps wherein this waste material is collected, and then it can be reused or retreated and can be brought into use once again. Similarly, for drainage purposes also, huge sumps are created and they are dug underground, and these should be properly covered. So this thing should be ensured by the factory owners. Section 34 talks about excessive weights. So any person who's been employed into the factory, he or she should not be allowed to carry the load or weight which a person cannot hold. So it should be within the prescribed limits. Section 35 talks about the protection of eyes. So wherever in the factories the nature of work is such that there may be any damage to the eyes of the worker, in that case an eye protection gear or goggles should be provided to the workers to protect their eyes from any kind of harm. So wherever the dangerous processes are there, especially for those things, the goggles are necessary or the protection gear is necessary. Section 36 talks about dangerous fumes. So there are a lot of processes in the factory premises wherein, say for example, chemical factories. So wherever these chemicals are being made, there are a lot of dangerous fumes which emanate from the chemicals. So wherever such fumes are originating, the owners or the factory owners have to ensure that there should be proper, exhaust fans, and there should be proper measures to remove those dust or fumes or gases which are emanating from there. Section 36A talks about the portable electric light. So above 24 volts of portable electric light should be installed in the factory premises if in case there is any kind of power failure. Explosives or inflammable dust or gases, etc. This has been given in section 37. So the factory has to take all necessary measures for safety and prevention of any kind of explosion taking place because of ignition of gas or ignition of fumes, etc. So section 38 talks about precautions in case of fire. So whenever there is any kind of fire which may take place in the factory premises, so there should be separate exits for fires. You will find everywhere in residential compounds or complexes, it is clearly written that in case of fire, don't use any lift, use the stairs instead. So factory owners should ensure that in case of fire there should be separate exits so that people can easily leave the premises and no harm is caused to the workers. Apart from this, there should be facilities for extinguishing fires. So fire extinguishers should be placed in the factory premises. They should be periodically checked, and proper alarm system should be there if in case there is fire. So the alarm goes off and the people are alerted so that they can leave the compound to a safer place. The section 39 and 40 talks about the role of inspectors. So the inspectors have been assigned a lot of roles. The inspectors can visit the factory premises and they can collect any kind of data that is required. They can inspect the machinery, whether all the safety precautions are being followed or not, and they can ask for any kind of registers which are maintained for recording the accidents, whether a factory has all those records or not maintained within a proper format. So these are the roles of factories inspector. Section 40B talks about a safety officer. So wherever in the factory premises there are more than 1,000 workers which are working at a given point of time, a safety officer should be appointed whose primary role would be to take care of all the safety precautions are being followed in the factory premises as per the provisions of the Factories Act 1948. The last section, that is the section 41, talks about the power to make rules to supplement the above provisions. Now apart from these, the state governments have the right or have the power to make more provisions which are going to supplement these particular rules. For example, nowadays we have so many companies which have confidential data with them. So or cyber crime or any kind of cyber theft or data theft can also be covered under these things. And any kind of harm which is taking place because of an electronic environment, even those need to be covered under these acts. So that's it about the safety provisions. I hope you like the video. I'll just a brief reminder of what we did. We spoke about the 21 safety provisions which are given in section 21 to 41 of the Factories Act 1948. The chapter 4 of the Factories Act talks about these safety provisions. Why it is necessary to maintain safety provisions within the factory? Because these provisions, if not followed, can lead to accident, lead to death of the employee, and as a result the companies or the factories would be required to pay compensation. So that is why these should be properly followed. Thank you.